Hey folks, it's Billy DKY, the truth seeker that simplifies and demystifies. This is going to be UFC 110 predictions, Minotauro Nogueira versus Cain Velasquez. This fight all boils down to who is better on the ground for me. I mean, I've started thinking about it, who's going to do what and where, and I think the fight's going to wind up being ended on the ground. I don't think either one of these guys have really ever ended a fight on the feet that I can remember right off the top of my head. Both seem to be okay strikers. It seems like Cain's a little bit better striker as far as power goes. It seems like Nogueira is a little more fluid and maybe a little crisper, with the last Randy fight, which I didn't expect. Big Nog actually did pretty well against Randy, which, like I said, I didn't really expect that. And it seems like Cain is still caught up in the forcefulness, and I think that's what makes a lot of his punches sort of maybe a little bit slower. But, he explodes into the punches. And plus Big Nog trains with some of the best strikers in the world, Anderson Silva, and then plus Junior Dos Santos, which I think is going to be a beast in heavyweight. So, again, I think this all boils down to who's going to be better on the ground. Will Cain's forceful wrestling beat Big Nog's superior jiu-jitsu? So, and basically, to analyze that, I said, okay, how did Big Nog do against Randy Couture? And really, Big Nog really dominated Randy Couture, which Randy Couture is a little bit smaller guy, but Randy did really well against Brock Lesnar. He didn't get handled in the wrestling game. He actually moved, Brock Lesnar around in the clinch. So, to dominate Randy Couture, and on the ground the way he did, I mean, that says a whole bunch about Big Nog. Look what he did to, Mark Coleman and the people that and Tim Sylvia. He had his way with a lot of those guys. So, Big Nog really did something by, beating Randy on the ground as bad as he did. So, I don't really see that Cain is going to have, obviously Cain's going to be, more spirited. He's more of a hungry young lion. But I really don't see that he's going to have any real answers for Nogueira, except for basically, that big spirit that he has, which in a way I don't think he uses it effectively because he doesn't appreciate it right now. You know what I'm saying? So I just can't see Cain handling Big Nog on the ground except he hurts him or something. That's really his only tool, it seems like. So let's just take a moment to consider the people that Big Nog has fought. It's a who's who of MMA. There's really not many slouches that he's fought. At least, he's got at least 10 solid guys here. He, has a win over Randy Couture, which we just mentioned, and he handled him. And Randy's a strong wrestler. So what's Cain going to offer that Randy, didn't offer? Maybe a little bit more power, maybe a little bit more cardio, which I don't really think that. Just maybe a little more speed. He has 2 decision losses to Fedor. That's huge in itself. Supposedly the best heavyweight that's ever lived. That's huge. He has a loss to Frank Mir, which, maybe he's sick, maybe he wasn't. So that's really the only loss as far as a knockout that I could see on his record. He had to win over Tim Sylvia, and Tim Sylvia is no small challenge. Even though I'm not really a fan of him, he's still a big challenge. He has a decision win and a decision loss to Josh Barnett, which Josh Barnett is a huge wrestler. So, what is Cain bringing that Josh Barnett doesn't bring? In fact, Josh Barnett may even be a better wrestler. He may be bigger. He's probably at least 20 pounds heavier than Cain. So, he has a win over Mirko Cro Cop. So, that means he's going to be able to handle the standing. He has a win and a loss to Dan Henderson, which, that's really hard to judge anything on that since Dan is so small. But it does, I guess, show maybe a good wrestler can have some success. He has a win over Bob Sapp. I think the guy's like 350 pounds or something. Big black guy. Then he has a win over Mark Coleman. So, if you look at his list, he's fought strong wrestlers. Cain really doesn't bring anything new to the game except potentially more spirit. Which I'm not even convinced he brings more spirit. I just know he has a big spirit. You know what I mean? Okay, what notable fighters has Cain fought? Czech Congo. That's it. And he almost got knocked out fighting Czech Congo. So, he didn't look that good. He looked superior as far as wrestling, then able to get dominance. But he almost got knocked out in the process. And again, Cain really just hasn't learned how to use his force. He hasn't learned how to fight without using his force. He relies upon it. It's like BJ Penn relying on talent. So I can see this being a bad fight for Cain Velasquez, really. Especially when you're fighting a guy like Big Nog who, he can get hurt and come back. I mean, he's been hurt and come back his whole life from childhood forward. So, which that brings up the other point. I'll probably be doing a video on Into the Mind of Cain Velasquez if you like that series. I mean, not Cain Velasquez, but Minotauro Nogueira. Okay. Cain's game plan will be good, but not smart. It won't be the smartest game plan because he relies too much on his force. He has too much belief in his force, so therefore he won't rely too much on a strategic plan. If you look at his victories have come about through forcefulness, not necessarily technique per se. I'm not saying he doesn't use technique. I'm just saying he doesn't rely on technique as much as he does his spirit. Cain seems to have the attitude that I will win because I have the bigger spirit. He still hasn't. There's something he just hasn't learned yet. There's still some ego in that, and he hasn't learned how to use his force wisely because he has too much of it. Really. Okay. I see this fight unfolding with Big Nog getting the better of the stand-up, and Cain not liking it and taking Big Nog down where he eventually gets submitted. For a moment, Big Nog may look in trouble, but he will eventually pull off a slick submission when you least expect it. Because he seems to do that all the time. He seems to... I noticed that in Tim Silva, he just, all of a sudden, you don't think he's doing anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's sunk something in just lightning fast. So, I think that leads guys into, loyal thinking he's stupid, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're caught in something. So, things to consider: Big Nog has only been stopped once that I could note by looking at his record, and it was by Frank Mir, which maybe he's a sick, maybe he's not. And again, I think the only real tool that Cain Velasquez offers is that big spirit that may be too much for Big Nog to handle. That's really, I see that as the only way to win. I don't see him knocking him out, and I don't see him. He's not going to submit him, I don't believe. The only way I think he can do anything is to ground and pound him. So I see Big Nog really having an advantage in this fight, and I'm going to have to give 60% chance to Big Nog and 40% to Cain Velasquez. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to have a bubble pop up, and it'll be a playlist for my UFC 110 predictions. I'm also going to have some other stuff in there besides predictions, and I have 3 other videos. The new MMA scoring system, and it's hyphen preliminary, and then you need to watch that one first before you watch the other one. Hypothetical fights under new MMA scoring systems, and MMA training video. It's under the Falling Away of Growth applications, and basically it's not how to do arm bars and stuff like that. It's all the tech, how the mental aspects to learn that stuff, how to learn that stuff most effectively, how to have your mind right. And so, and then like I said, I have a video coming up too, Into the Mind of Minotauro Nogueira, which I'll put in there. So, till the next video, later folks.